Canada's superhero rises again. Captain Canuck is heating up thanks to politics. What's with the sudden demand? We'll let you know.
The Archie gang goes full Scooby-Doo. Do you remember Archie Weird Mysteries?
And the Crusaders versus the Freedom Fighters. Marvel introduced a team of World War II heroes that mirrored DC's Freedom Fighters. Was it a friendly homage or a competitive jab? Find out all this and more on a new episode of Brown Mountain Gods. Richard, I don't want to get political. I'm just going to say this at the outset. I'm just going to say this at the outset. We're not being political, but we have to talk about the hot book of the week, which is
Captain Canuck #1.
It is the first Canadian superhero comic book series. It marked the debut of Canada's first homegrown superhero, created by Richard Comley and Ron Leishman, and it paved the way for independent comics in Canada in 1975. All right. Very early independent comic, proving that you didn't have to be Marvel or DC to find an audience, at least in Great White North.
Published by Comley Comics, which is a very interesting name. Captain Canuck became a symbol of Canadian pride, embodying the country's values and serving as a unique Canadian counterpart to heroes like, of course, Captain America.
There was a big increase in copies sold this week versus the week prior because Captain Canuck was featured in this Fan Expo Vancouver exclusive that's on your screen now. No comment. And now Raws of Captain Canuck #1 are selling for up to $35 on eBay.
I still like Vindicator's flag suit better than Captain Canuck.
I know, but you have to admit, John Byrne had a heavy swiping hand here.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm upset. I think did I tell you this already? I had a complete run of Captain Canuck that I sold at a live sale maybe a month and a half ago.
It's all about timing, John.
Oh, who would have thought that Captain Canuck first of all, who would have thought whatever's happened at this point to make Captain Canuck #1 be a hot book would have happened, but here we are. It's terrific. Oh, terrific. Sorry, not terrific. Let's just go right into show and tell before people tune out. All right. Do we care if those people tune out? I guess that's my question. How about no theme, except, well, I guess I have a theme. I actually went and pulled slabs. My first question is, what's the temperature on slabs now? What do you think?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I still think it's tepid personally. I really haven't seen a lot of emphasis on CGC or even CBCS, to be honest with you.
I haven't submitted Boo since, gosh, I can't even remember. Was it last summer?
Has it been that long?
I think San Diego Comic-Con was last time I submitted anything.
Okay.
Yikes.
My Black Man #1 was the last thing that I submitted, but that was literally, used my credit for that. So I figured it was using it up.
Did they give you the credit?
Yes, they did not charge my credit card.
All right, good. Dragonlance #1, 9.8 newsstand. Huh?
Wow. 9.8 too.
I didn't even know this was on the newsstands. I don't think it was on like newsstands proper. I think it was like in Walden Books and Borders and Barnes and Nobles and things like that, because I don't think these TSR books went to the general newsstand. If you guys know differently, let me know. But did you ever do Dragonlance when you were doing D&D?
I was one of those guys who bought all the books and read them. Never played them, but read them all. So so I never played Dragonlance, but I did read it.
I've had this forever, and they announced the movie, so I've been sitting on it ever since. And I don't know, is the movie even happening? What TSR Dungeons and Dragons are so hot again? Why aren't they capitalizing that on that? I know that one movie came out, and people say it was good.
Who owns them? Wizards of the Coast bought bought them, and then is it Hasbro? I don't know who's the parent company at this point.
I believe it's Hasbro. I can hear the clacking of keyboards nationwide.
It does seem to be a property that people aren't taking advantage of. There are a lot of geeks out there, and shows like Critical Role are incredibly popular. But see, Critical Role now has their own role-playing game. Yeah, I think that's
you have famous players like Joe Manganiello. Hey, invite me, please. I'm in the LA area. I'd love to come to your house.
Henry Cavill. I want a game with Henry Cavill.
I'd love to spend some time in your basement. All right, Richard, what is your first show and tell book?
All right, I have a bit of a theme. I picked my number one favorite comic is X-Men, especially Uncanny X-Men, and more specifically Claremont and Byrne. I was talking to a business partner of mine who happens to also collect comics. Hi, Trevor, if you're out there. And we were talking about the impact of Claremont and Byrne's run, and it got me thinking about the books. This is X-Men 129, probably the biggest book in that run. But just the stories are just incredible. Byrne's art is amazing. Aurora with those pupilless eyes and the big flowing hair and the lockpick in the headdress, and this is the Aurora I think of when I am I'm thinking of her, either this one or the Mohawk one. But
do you think First Kitty Pryde, First White Queen is the biggest key in the Byrne Claremont run? You might be right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything bigger, unless you go back to like 109, which is the Vindicator Wolverine issue.
I was thinking Alpha Flight 120, 121.
Or 141, 142, or sorry, 142, 143. Days of Future Past. Yeah, maybe that's in terms of dollar value. I've always seen this one sell for big bucks, and it's an important book in the rent. I may be wrong. I could very well be wrong, but to me, this is the big book in that run from Burns and Claremont.
As Billy Joel says, you may be right. All right, you're gonna love this one. It's a bummer because I thought it was going to be higher when I sent it in. It is Flaming Carrot number 1, 9.4.
Oh, okay.
This is the Aardvark Vanaheim regular ongoing Flaming Carrot number 1. And it's a tough book. It's not only got that black border cover, the entire back cover as well is almost all black with some highlights. I see one line now that I'm looking at it under the light. There's a diagonal line right here that I could have. I don't think I pressed this when I sent it. This is before I sent this in early. I don't even think I was pressing books at this point. So it could be a CPR, but why bother at this point?
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. I've never read Flaming Carrot consistently. It always seems tongue in cheek for me.
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't want to read about the road hogs from outer space.
Yeah. It just didn't appeal to my particular sense of humor.
Well, he was a comic book fan in his the origin of the Flaming Carrot. He's a comic book fan that read, I think it was 3,000 comic books in one sitting, and it damaged his brain and turned him into the Flaming Carrot. So, what's your next show and tell?
Going in order, I'm going to pick excuse me, X-Men 133. And this is in a CBCS case. It's a very, very thin case compared to the cases CGC does. But here you got Wolverine on the cover and in the Hellfire Club going ham on a bunch of goons. He ends up this was advertised as the first time he actually lets loose and actually severely injures these people. You don't find out in this issue if they live or die, but you do find out later that they survived. But
they become the Reavers, right?
Exactly right. So, but no, this is a part of that whole Hellfire Club's story arc, which leads into the whole Phoenix saga, and it's it's a pretty cool book.
That is the first solo Wolverine cover.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Wow.
And this one goes for a bit of money. This is a 9.4. Um, I have a number of copies of these. I have a number of copies of all the books I'm showing because I've always just had a soft spot for this run. And I'm hoping as Marvel moves forward, that we'll see more X-Men movies and more X-Men content. So,
do you remember the last panel of 132? Wolverine in the sewers looking up. 30 days. 4-color comics number 878, aka Peanuts number 1.
Ah, yeah.
Not the Peanuts number 1. That's safely ensconced over there. This is the first Peanuts number 1 of the ongoing series. And it's a rough 4.5. I'm surprised I got a 4.5 out of this. I think there was a curve, a little grading curve. But definitely a personally drawn cover by Schultz. You've got, I think this is a repurposed Sunday page for the back cover. And just an important.
She doesn't have creepy eyes in that, does she?
She has her regular eyes. She's yeah. This is 1960. No, this is 58. 1958. So at this point, the characters have kind of come into their own. They, couldn't decide on a logo. It's the third different logo that the Peanuts.
Hanna-Barbera like logo there.
Yeah, but what's your last X-Men book? What do you got?
Last one is 134. I like 133 so good. 134. I love this cover. You've got the Black Queen, and you've got the rest of the X-Men, and they're fighting each other. They're fighting the Hellfire Club, and you think Scott is down for the count, and no, he actually. It's a cool story. I'm not going to. Yeah, I should say I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't read it yet. It is a great story arc, going all the way through to Phoenix's death, quote unquote. It's a great story arc.
I'm going to be the old guy. That's what we do here. We're Gen X. Man, we had it good, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
That run every month in, month out, waiting for it to show up. Man, it just had us on the edges of our seats.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, like I said, all the way up to the death of Phoenix, it was seat of your pants every single issue. And to me, I was buying it off the newsstand as you. We were buying it off the newsstand, and it was just exciting to have that day show up that you can go pick up your comic and you go take it and devour it. And then, and then all of a sudden, okay, now I got to wait another 30 days for the next issue.
Just stare at the art. I'd go back and look at each page of the art. And, Terry Austin needs to get a lot of credit too. Terry Austin. Made Burton sing.
He did. I mean, and I think he's credited for, on here, he's credited, John Byrne and Terry Austin are credited for the cover art.
Yeah, it was funny. You had the death of Phoenix in 137. That was kind of the apex of that run. And then 138, it's, Scott leaves, and it's basically a history lesson of the X-Men. Here's everything that's happened in the X-Men so far. And then it just kind of flounders for the rest of the Byrne run. Here's an Alpha Flight return story. Actually, it's more Wolverine and Nightcrawler up in Canada. And then Days of Future Past. Okay, maybe he didn't flounder. That's
no, that is such an amazing story. I still remember the first time I read Days of Future Past, and just how mind blowing it was. The whole time traveling thing. It wasn't a trope like it is nowadays, and it was an amazing run.
I think. We lost a lot when Byrne left, because I wonder what would have happened. Cockrum comes back, We get a Freedom Force with John Romita Jr. and Paul Smith. I mean, I love the Paul Smith run. I love the beginning of the JR run. The Cockrum run the stories are good, but just the art wasn't the same.
Right.
Something happened to Dave Cockrum between his stints there. Oh, we could talk all day about the X-Men. In fact, we often do on our members only shows. You want to support the show? Why don't you become a member here on YouTube? $2.99 a month, and you get exclusive live member only streams on Thursday. Boy, if you were on last Thursdays, hello. You get an extra show and tell episode on Wednesday. You get shout outs. Look at all the new names, Richard. We had multiple people join last week. Thank you so much. Just hit join here on YouTube next to the subscribe button. If you're on the podcast, you can hit it in the description. There's a link there as we pivot to your viewer mail.
You've got
Richard,
mail.
You start us off.
My first piece of viewer mail is from Sebastian TCA. And he says, dude, you guys are missing out in Daredevil seasons number 2 and number 3. They are better than season number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to watch it. I've heard, Sebastian, thank you for your comment. I've heard
one of many taking us to task for not watching Daredevil season 2.
And that's absolutely right. And I enjoyed the first season so much that there's really no excuse why I didn't go back and watch the next 2 seasons or the Punisher series. I didn't watch that either. So I definitely need to catch up before I watch the new show. And that's my plan is to catch up so that I'm kind of where everybody else is.
Did you watch Jessica Jones?
The first episode. That was
my God. The first season was so good. David Tennant is the Purple Man. So good. My first piece of viewer mail comes to us from our buddy Dan Man 5150. I hope you're able to get your press badges for Heroes Con. Me too. We did apply. I will be attending it for the first time this year and wanted to follow some of John's advice and take some books to trade. Not having done this before, is there a general rule to what you consider a fair trade offer in relation to the book's fair market value? Dan, there is no hard and fast rule for this. If you have something super hot that a dealer knows he can sell really quickly and you want to trade it for Love Romances number 106, I think you're going to get a great deal there.
Right.
The example I use is my Silver Surfer number 4, 8.5. I traded it straight up for Captain America Comics 10, 1.5. So was it a 1.5 or a 1.8? I think it's a 1.8.
Is it?
Yeah. So Dan, I think it depends on the trade bait you have. You know, if you've got a bunch of really common moderns and you want to trade for an Avengers 4, you're going to have a tough road to hoe there. Speaking of common moderns, did you see the man from the Red Hood's Instagram, Richard, where someone walked into his new Las Vegas shop with a stack of Ultimate Fallout 4 Jurjevic variants?
No.
A stack, like 10 of them.
Wow.
So
I would love to know where you got that.
Diamond employee?
If only he could travel back in time to 2022.
Maybe it was a time traveler. Was it a Time Lord? It was one of the Time Lords, I think. What do you think about that?
It's I won't say it's not unheard of. We've had
one issue with Bucky.
Oh yeah. So it's going to drive the value down. I mean, overall, if those books get graded and put into the system, they're just a supply and demand, especially now with the Ultimate Fallout. So,
would you get a 9.8 if it's your chance now?
I have a 9.6 signed. I'm good. I never needed a 9.8. I had a 9.8, and stupid me sold it back before it skyrocketed. But it's because I'm not tied to 9.8s as the penultimate, and I like 9.8s, but if I have a 9.6, it'll do the job.
I don't care how much I love a book. If I have a 9.8 and it's selling for $30K and I paid $1,000 for it, It's gone. Bye.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna buy some Palantir. All right, what is your next viewer mail? Take a drink, everybody. I said Palantir.
I will say, if I came across a Love and Rockets 9.8, I would buy it.
Yeah,
It's an exception.
not for
Uh,
30K.
Not for 30K, no.
Okay.
My next piece of viewer mail is from our friend down under, Charlie Dog. And we're talking about comics. A $3.99 comic, a $3.99 comic for you guys is $9 here in Australia.
Oh my
No new
god.
comics for me, apart from the 3 monthly titles I get from my LCS. I don't blame you, Charlie. I really don't. The next next price rise will cut me back to 2. Hence, like your correspondent, I am too immersed. I too am immersing myself more and more in back issues from the Silver and Bronze Ages, particularly the dirt cheap Marvel Essentials, which are great, a great way of reading comics if you don't mind black and white, and DC Showcase Presents with black and white reprints. And it's surprising how good a lot of the art looks in black and white. Yeah, that's how the artists saw it. Talking about music, Foo Fighters, nah, they'll never catch on. And finally, Pepe Le Pew, one of my favorite cartoon characters while growing up, and still a great favorite. And yes, what so many critics today don't understand is that character satirizes the suave, smooth Frenchman from the films of the era. Exactly. The Maurice Chevalier, for example.
Of course.
Yeah, it is. It is. There's a lot. There's a lot to Mel Brooks and that era that is very.
Mel Blanc.
Who did I say?
You said Mel Brooks.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Mel Blanc. There's a lot to that era that is very doesn't meet a lot of our standards today in terms of representation. But it's you got to take everything in context. I mean, it's definitely. I love those comics. Or the cartoons. I love all of the old cartoons from the 40s and 50s and 60s, and then it kind of got kind of screwy. But yep, thanks, Charlie. Appreciate it.
From David Siegert. Richard, we're being schooled on the turtles from last week, where we were trying to decide which turtle that was with the red headband. The original turtles all wore red headbands. The way to tell them apart was their weapon. Leo had the katana, Ralph used the sai, Donatello the bow, and Michelangelo the nunchucks. The colors were added as a contractual and marketing arrangement with Playmate Toys. That makes sense, David.
It sure does, especially since the original 4 issues, original run of Ninja Turtles was in black and white. So
yeah,
having to differentiate them from the different color of their bandanas would not have worked.
The 5th and 6th turtle, Picasso and Warhol. What's your next piece of your mail?
My next piece is from Timothy Markin. And he says, for your information, Richard, speaking of Marvel's Ren and Stimpy comic, it was drawn by Mike Kazala, who happens to be the creator of that Captain Jack comic you were gifted.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
That's cool. When you're reading it, the style may ring some bells. That's why. There were actually 12 issues published between 1986 and 1989. And we're talking about coloring books. And speaking of coloring books drawn by comic book artists, there was a series of giant coloring books in 1976 with actual comic book stories designed to be colored called, wait for it, Giant Comics to Color. Oh, they used their marketing hats on that.
I had the Cap one.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
The aforementioned Owen McCarran drew the Spider-Man and Captain America volumes in his faux Kirby style. The artists on the DC books are harder to place, perhaps Kurt Swan on Superman book and Jose Delbo on the Wonder Woman edition. Shazam is tough to identify the artist as Captain Marvel is drawn in the Kurt Schaffenberger style, but nothing else is. Tough to find uncolored, of course. Wow. So you had the Captain America one? Did you color?
No, oh no. I don't think I did. I think it was too old to color at that point. I think I
Oh,
got it just as a collectible kind of thing. That's why I made that reference to Owen McCarron last week, because totally remember that coloring book and the faux Kirby swipes. They were not. It wasn't a faux Kirby style, Timothy. It was full on Kirby swipes. God bless Owen McCarron. My last piece of viewer mail comes from Additional Dirty Dirtbag.
okay, it's a great name. I love it.
And Additional Dirty Dirtbag, he and or she responded to me grousing about the horrible DC logo, the Peel logo that they used a few years ago. I think the DC Peel logo is supposed to be a comic being opened. That's what I always assumed. Could be wrong, though. I don't know, ADD. Sounds like it could be anything to me. You may be right, as Billy Joel says again.
It always looked like a sticker being peeled off of something.
Yeah. DC people working there at the time. What? Why? Who? What? Didio, you approve this? What? Oh, Richard, I can't even come up with a segue.
It's the 25-year rule.
Hey. Is that the first time in 5 years you have introduced the 25-year rule?
It may very well may be.
You may be right, Billy Joel said. Richard, what is the 25-year rule this week?
This week I picked a weird one, specifically Archie's Weird Mysteries from Archie Comics in 2000. This is a strange book in that it's based on the animated series that premiered in 1999. An animated series is what you expect from a kids show from the early aughts. It's pretty banal and doesn't have any of the charm. Archie has survived all these years because the characters have a certain charm and panache. It was all stripped from them during the animated series. And the comic, since it's pretty much follows the same pattern, is also a little milquetoast. But the comic ran for 34 issues, which I find just amazing. 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. The TV show, though, was only on for it was on for 40. Okay, this is the difference between TV now and then. The TV show had 40 episodes, which lasted a year.
Yeah. That's that syndicated kind of strip thing they do with
they're 22-minute episodes. Nowadays a TV show you watch like Severance. There's 6 episodes in the season. If you're lucky, 8 episodes, and they're done. They wrap for the year. That's it. Back then, they worked for a living and they cranked out those 22-minute shows.
Those poor underage Korean animators.
Well, it suffered too, because like I said, the content is pretty weak sauce. There are, if you go to YouTube, you can watch some of the episodes. They're up there on YouTube, and you can relive your childhood if you grew up in that era. You will be shocked at how uninteresting the episodes really are. But it's kind of like Scooby-Doo, as the entrance was talking about. It's the Archie gang has to solve a mystery, and there's a different mystery every episode.
They even have Hot Dog there, which it's so blatant.
It is such a blatant ripoff. If you really I'd watch the Scooby-Doo, even the Scrappy-Doo episodes are better than these.
No Scrappy.
But I thought it was an interesting period in Archie comics. So if you see it, maybe thumb through it. I wouldn't say buy it.
Wait, let me guess. Hot Dog and Jughead are the Shaggy and Scooby of the Archie's Weird Mysteries.
I would hazard a guess that makes perfect sense.
Well, we know why they always had the munchies. Wink, wink. Hot Dog is different than Scooby. Hot Dog was actually the conductor of the Archies. Remember when they would play like Sugar Sugar?
My goodness. Yeah.
Cut the hot dog with a little conductor's baton conducting.
He's a dog. Can you just see a
dog smoke? Why wasn't Dilton dissecting Hot Dog to find out why he was so intelligent and smart and stand on two legs. Do you guys remember Archie's Weird Mysteries? Did you watch it? I think I was aged out at this point.
Yeah, I was too.
Wow. A great logo, though. I'll give him the logo.
Yeah, the logo changed over the years,
Mm.
and to something that's not as great.
Oh, okay. So more great choices like a peel and stick DC logo. Let's move on to our underrated books of the week. Richard, I'm going to give it to you. I'm not sure this is underrated, though.
You don't think so?
You'll go for it.
Let's put it this way. I was unaware of it.
Okay.
And I picked JSA The Golden Age, which came out in 1993, but it was just reprinted last July. So you can buy the reprint and you can find it pretty easy. The trade paperback includes all issues 1 through 4 in it, and it's just a very interesting story. You know, we've all read The Watchmen and saw the Golden Age heroes in a different light. Well, this is very similar to that context, but you've got the Golden Age versions of a lot of different heroes. You've got Green Lantern, who's Alan Scott. You've got Adam, who's Al Pratt, Hawkman, Carter Hall, and then Starman, Ted Knight. And they are all, it's an interesting thing because it takes place it takes place right after the end of the Second World War. And they give a really interesting explanation why all those heroes didn't just go over to Europe and fight the war with all the soldiers. They all stayed on the home front and battled crime here. And then the atomic bomb was dropped, and that was kind of the signal of a change. And I won't spoil it because I really want you to read it. But it's all about the Red Scare and how the politics of the era kind of permeates the path that these heroes travel. And there's some heroes that turn to villains, and it's an interesting dark read, sort of like how Watchmen is a dark read. It is a very interesting series, and you get to see people like Green Lantern and Hawkman and those kinds of characters not being as patriotic and superhero-ish, more human than they are in any of the Golden Age books.
Is this the start of Alan Scott being considered gay?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Do you remember if they called that out in this miniseries? I've never read it. I love Paul Smith. I don't know why I haven't read this. I love Paul Smith's art.
Yeah. The art is great, and if you have an opportunity, like I said, you can buy this I saw it up on eBay for $10. It's 200 pages, so you get your money's worth. It's an interesting story arc. I haven't finished it yet, but I think it deserves more prominence than it's gotten, especially since those characters are kind of frozen in time in most comic book readers' minds as to who they are, and it's a very two-dimensional kind of view of those characters. This gives them that third dimension, and it's a potential. This is an Elsewhere story, so it was not canon, but it definitely gives you another perspective into those heroes, into that time, and how they lived in that time, because they're all products of the 40s and the 50s.
It's so funny how in sync we are, because you picked the Golden Age and I picked Invaders 14 with the Marvel superheroes of the Golden Age. This is the first appearance of the Crusaders on the cover there. And if they look familiar, it's because they're Marvel's counterpoint to DC's Freedom Fighters. You've got Captain Wings as the Black Condor, Ghost Girl, Phantom Lady, Dynamite, Doll Man, Thunder Fist, the Human Bomb, Spirit of 76, Uncle Sam, and Tommy Lightning, the Ray. So this was kind of an unofficial crossover with the Freedom Fighters comic that was happening at DC at the same time. They had some characters that looked like the Invaders, Submariner and Human Torch and Captain America. It's just a fascinating example of the intercompany unofficial crossovers they would do every now and then. Roy Thomas and I believe it was Bob Rozakis was writing Freedom Fighters, and just a really cool team that we don't see a lot anymore, don't see referenced anymore. Spirit of 76, that character, he sort of survived in the continuity. He became one of the replacement Captain Americas after Cap was frozen on ice. But the other characters you don't see referenced much in Marvel continuity anymore. I don't think so. If you guys know any different, let me know. And this goes for high grade copy, goes for about $10 on eBay. So just funny that you and I are stuck in the 40s.
Yeah. I noticed the prominence of the swastikas on the hey, it's on my helmet, so you know who I am.
And only that, look at the back of my jacket. I got this on tour.
Yeah. I want to make sure you know who I am, so that
he was a roadie for Hitler.
So when you punch me out, you know you did a good job. Yeah,
exactly. Aim for the jaw. All right, folks, that is going to wrap it up. Thanks to all the new people, all the new subscribers the last couple of weeks, all the new members. We appreciate every single one of you, and we will catch you members on Wednesday. Everyone else, we'll see you next Monday.
Yep, everybody. Be safe.